Hello everyone, Uncle Crochater here with another episode of Storytime Saturday. Now, this week, we're going to be talking about a classmate of mine from high school. For those who don't know, in my senior year of high school, I took an animation class as part of a trade program. And there was this guy that sat next to me in this animation class. We'll call him Alex. Alex was one of those students that every class has, the wannabe thug. This class didn't have too many of those, and most of them still understood to take this class seriously, and they did. They took it very seriously, they did their work, but two of them, Alex and his friend that sat next to him, really didn't. And it got so bad that the teacher would call him out on it. And we often wondered how he was still in this class. Because one of the criteria to stay in this class was that you had to be passing your regular classes at your regular school. And if this lack of effort is what he puts into this, we can't imagine how he was passing his other classes. Now, how do I know that he wasn't taking this seriously? Because every time we were supposed to be working, I'd glance over at his monitor, because we're right next to each other, and he'd be watching rap battles, and dance fights, and women in bikinis posing on cars. You know, that kind of thing. To the point where he was almost looking at porn a few times. And it drove me nuts because he would constantly ask me, like, hey, why are you working so hard? It's like, dude, I'm working hard because I want to pass this class. I want to learn how to animate. I want to do these things. Same as anyone else here. We work because we want these skills. And he was like, yeah, whatever, bro. And it drove me nuts. Eventually, towards the end of the year, we, as a class, collaborated to rotoscope a music video. Now, for those who don't know what rotoscoping is, it's basically the animation equivalent to tracing. Like, take those those CG movies that were motion captured. Motion capture to 3D is what rotoscoping is to 2D. In rotoscoping, you film a live person, and then when you bring it into the animation department, they draw over it and to basically trace the movement. A good example of this is actually the original Disney Snow White from the 60s. Snow White herself was rotoscoped. That was a live person on a set with props. They just drew Snow White over that person. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Or beside myself, whatever. I'm getting carried away. We each had a few seconds that we had to rotoscope. I kind of chickened out and took the final shot where it's fading to black because I felt like being a little shit at the time. Well, for once, really. I always put a lot of effort in, but I felt like taking it easy for this one so I could focus on other projects. Alex, on the other hand, he took one of the easiest shots. It is just Rick James standing. There was almost no movement in these few seconds. And it's just Rick James on a white background. For those who don't know, Rick James is a very dark-skinned person wearing very dark clothing in this video. Alex could have just traced the outline and still probably would have passed. But that's not what he did. Alex drew a T-posing stick figure. Keep in mind, this was before T-posing became a meme. This was 2013. Long before T-posing became a meme. But that's all he did. He didn't even draw the stick figure to match where Rick James was. It's just a T-posing stick figure for 3 frames, and with each frame he redrew the stick figure. That's all he did. The teacher of this class, when he was reviewing everything we had, he looked at Alex and said, I don't like to borrow from the internet when I give critiques here, but you literally only had one job. You had one job, and that was to trace. And you couldn't even do that right. And he just let him have it. For like 5 minutes, he just went off on this kid, talking about how he's had enough of him. He's just done putting up with him. Because it's not like we only had 2 hours to do this. No, we had 10. Well, actually, no. Let's see. We had 15 hours to do this. 3 hours for 5 days. 15 hours to do this. And all he had was 3 frames of a T-posing stick figure. Meanwhile, half the class had theirs finished, and the only reason the other half didn't is because they got overambitious with a lot of things. Like, this one girl wanted to, instead of tracing everything, replace it with the Dairy Queen lips, lip-syncing with the lyrics of the song. She was 2 frames away from finishing when all was said and done, but that's only because she tried to cram so much detail into this mouth, into this floating mouth. And that's really what bit everyone. Everybody wanted to animate something else over this, and they kept getting so ambitious that they couldn't finish. But you know what? I would rather give them a passing grade, because the only reason they didn't finish it is because they bit off more than they could chew, but they thought they could do it. And what they did have looked really nice. But then you have Alex, who really just drew 3 stick figures and then called it a day, and then spent the remaining 14 hours watching rap battles, music videos, dance fights, and women in bikinis posing on cars. That's all he did. And we all hated him. We all hated him because here we are working our asses off, and then here he is doing nothing, calling us stupid for working. It's like, dude, if you don't want to learn how to animate, you shouldn't be here. And I told him that. And the sad part is, this is not the last time I had somebody with this attitude in an art class. No. I've dealt with this multiple times from multiple people. And you know what? Those will probably be future episodes of Storytime Saturday. And Alex, as we're calling you, I know that's not your real name. I know what your real name is. I'm not going to say it on this video. But you know what? If you're watching this, I want you to know we all hated you. Because you were such an asshole to everyone. And you were so disrespectful to the craft. When your buddy got kicked out for trying to smuggle booze onto the campus, I was happy that he got kicked out. When the Hawaiian guy who refused to learn anyone's name and just kept referring to everyone as by the N-word, when he got kicked out, I was happy. And what would have made me the happiest person in that entire class would be if you got kicked out. Because it would mean that I wouldn't have had to deal with you for the rest of that year. You were complaining about not getting a perfect grade in that class. But you know what? I think you didn't deserve the grade you got. I think you deserve all zeros. And I'm surprised you got even a 2. If I were hiring in any department and you applied to work for my company, the moment I saw your name and the fact that you and I were in that class, the moment I recognized it was you, I would shred your application. That's how much I despise you. And that's how much everyone despised you. Now, for all I know, maybe you're a changed man. Maybe you've changed since then. Maybe you've turned a new leaf. Maybe. I can hope. I can hope that maybe you're a better person now than you were then. But until you prove that to me, I'm stuck believing you are still that dumb, lazy, wannabe thug who thinks that they can cruise through life just because they look tough. And I hope it bites you in the ass. But with all that out of the way, to everyone who listened to this who isn't Alex, let this serve as a cautionary tale for you. Don't be like Alex. If you get the opportunity to pursue something like animation, that you have to have you need a passion for it. You can't just sit there slacking off and expect to pass. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get it as a job, and if your boss catches you slacking the way Alex did, you're going to get fired. There's no doubt about it. So people, please, use Alex as a cautionary tale. Don't be like him. I'll see you guys on the next episode of Multiverse Monday. No, that wasn't misspeaking. I will see you on Monday. So enjoy your Saturday, enjoy your Sunday. Hopefully you enjoy hearing me on Multiverse Monday. But until then, I'll see you. Adios.